Greetings, students. It's Mr. Lee here, and I'm here to do an English lesson on syntax. Let me go ahead and share my screen so you can follow along with this PowerPoint slideshow. Syntax is about how we put sentences together, or how we put words together to form sentences. Today we're going to look at complete sentences, fragments, run-on sentences, and comma splices. Syntax is how we put words and phrases together to form sentences, and the goal is to form complete sentences. A complete sentence has a complete thought. A complete sentence, therefore, has a subject and at least a verb, but sometimes it has a fuller predicate that includes more information than just the verb. Here's an example of a complete sentence. Dante wrote a book. What's the subject? Dante. That's whom or what the sentence is about. And what about Dante? Well, Dante wrote, that's the verb. And then the rest of the predicate is what he wrote, which is a book. So Dante wrote a book is a complete thought. It has a subject, it has a verb, so it is a complete sentence. Let's take a look at some other examples of complete sentences. Jessica ran on the treadmill. What is the subject? Jessica. What's the verb? Ran. And then the rest of the predicate is where she ran, which is on the treadmill. That's a prepositional phrase helping to give more information about the action and about what Jessica did. Now, the reason why studying complete sentences is important and reviewing this is important is because a lot of times we don't talk in complete sentences. Think about when you're texting your friends or even in verbal conversations. A lot of times we talk in short bursts or phrases or sometimes single words. So it's important to understand what really is a complete sentence so that when we are writing, we make sure that we are writing in complete sentences. Here are a few more examples. Jan and Dean sang a song together. What's the subject? Jan and Dean. It's a compound subject here. And the verb, sang, that's what they did. And then the rest of the predicate is what they sang. They sang a song together. The class read the story and wrote a response. What's the subject? The class. What's the verb? Read and wrote. This one has a compound verb. And it's separated with the rest of the information in the predicate. Read the story and wrote a response. So we're seeing how sometimes complete sentences can be a little bit more complex and they can have compound forms. We'll talk about simple versus compound versus complex sentences in another lesson. Today, we're just going to talk about what makes a complete sentence versus what is a fragment. So fragments are incomplete sentences, and they're usually phrases or independent clauses that are by themselves. And because they're by themselves, that's a problem because they are not a complete thought by themselves. Here's an example of a fragment. The family of 8 siblings from Korea. Well, what about the family? I mean, we know that there are 8 of them, and they're all siblings and where they're from, but there's something about this that feels like it's an incomplete thought because we're waiting for more information. And so what is it that we need to add to complete the thought? We need to add the verb, because here we have a subject, and then there's another preposition, actually 2 prepositional phrases that add more information, but it's still missing a verb. So we say the siblings came from Korea, or you could say the fuller version, the family of 8 siblings came from Korea. So just adding that one word, that verb in there, makes it a complete thought. Here's another example. Jim is a boxer, has a strong right hook. Well, the first sentence, Jim is a boxer, is actually a complete sentence. But the second one that's shown is the problem. Has a strong right hook is not a complete sentence by itself. There's something missing. What's missing? The subject. So you have to add the subject in. And we can do this building upon the sentence that came before it by using a pronoun to stand in for Jim. So you can use the pronoun he. He has a strong right hook. By adding the subject, now we make sure that the second is also a complete sentence, not a fragment. Here's another example. The group was large, people from all over. Well, again, the first sentence is a complete sentence. It has a subject, the group, and it has a verb, was. But the second one is not a complete sentence. It's a fragment because it's missing something. What is it missing? Well, it has a subject, the people, and then there's a prepositional phrase, from all over, but it's missing a verb. And because it's missing a verb, it's a fragment. So how would you fix it? You would fix it by adding the verb. People from all over gathered. That is how we identify fragments and how we fix them. Fragments can also be things like clauses. So here is an example. Because I woke up late, well, there's a subject, I, and there's a verb, woke, but there's something about this that makes it not a complete thought, and it's that word because. You put the word because in there, and then it sounds like you're waiting for more. That word because turns this from an independent clause, which means it can stand by itself because it's a complete sentence and a complete thought, to a dependent clause, meaning it's waiting for more information, and you have to supply that in order to complete the thought. So to fix this, because I woke up late, it cannot stand by itself. That's poor writing. You add an independent clause to finish the thought. Because I woke up late, comma, I was late for school. And now we know the rest of the thought that goes along with this. You know that because you woke up late, something happened. And now you know what the rest of that was. Here's another example. With my high school friends. Well, is there a subject? It looks like high school friends. There's no verb. And actually, there's a preposition with. So this is not even a clause. A clause would have both a subject and a verb. So this is not a clause. This is just a phrase, and this is a prepositional phrase that's standing by itself. Well, it can't do that. It's a fragment. And because it's a fragment, it's not a complete thought. You have to fix it, and you can fix it by adding more information to complete the thought. So here we're adding an independent clause so that you have an actual subject and a verb that goes along with that are not bound to the preposition. So you then can complete the thought. I went to eat with my high school friends. Okay, I went to eat with my high school friends. And now you have a complete sentence instead of just a fragment. Let's talk about a couple of other things. Run-on sentences are multiple sentences that are jammed together. Let's see if I can get my slideshow to come back up. They're combined without punctuation. Here's an example. The team was stacked, so many great players. No one could beat them. Well, how many sentences does it seem like you have there? Well, if you look at it, you can look for how many subjects you have. You can look for how many verbs you have. And then you have some other words in there that don't seem to be in a clause, or they're kind of missing more information. So there's a lot of problems here. So let's see, how would you fix it? How would you complete the thoughts here? Well, you could take the first two parts and then combine them with a preposition so that they're no longer by themselves. The team was stacked with so many great players. Okay, so now that sounds like a complete thought and a complete sentence. We put a period there to show that it is a done sentence. And then the rest of it, no one could beat them. That is also a complete thought. And so that can be its own sentence as well. And so instead of having this one long sentence that's really a run-on sentence because you have too many thoughts that are jammed together, we're separating them into two separate sentences so that we no longer have a run-on sentence. There are a couple other ways that you could fix this when you're combining two independent clauses or two full complete sentences by themselves. You can put a period and a capital letter to separate them into two sentences, or you can put a comma and a conjunction to actually combine them into one long sentence. The other thing you can do is you can use a semicolon. I don't have that listed here, but we'll talk about that in a later lesson when we talk about punctuation. The main thing is don't try to jam too many complete thoughts into one sentence without proper punctuation. Comma splices happen when you put multiple sentences or independent clauses together only with a comma, and a comma is not sufficient to define the relationship between them. The team was stacked. That's a complete thought by itself, comma, no one could beat them. That's a complete thought by itself. But that comma is not enough to separate those two or to combine those two. So you need either a period and a capital letter. You need a comma plus a conjunction, or here's the example with the semicolon. So any one of those are good options for avoiding the comma splice and having correct punctuation as you're putting your thoughts together. Use separate sentences, a comma plus a conjunction, or a semicolon. Well, let's do some review. Are these examples a complete sentence, a fragment, a run-on, or a comma splice? Because I love chocolate. Well, there's a subject, there's a verb, but that word because, again, makes it sound like it's not a complete thought. So what would you say that is? That's a fragment. Let's look at number 2. To pass this class. Well, is there a subject? I don't see a subject there. Is there a verb? Looks like the verb is to pass. That's not actually in the right verb form. So I think this is also a fragment. This is also known as an infinitive phrase. So it's not a complete thought by itself. Let's look at number 3. I attend college. My dream is to open my own business. Is there a complete thought? Looks like there's actually more than one. And looks like there's more than one subject and more than one verb. What do you guys think? I think that looks like a run-on sentence. It's 2 sentences that are jammed together. Too many thoughts all in one sentence. You need some more punctuation to help us to understand what's going on there. Got 3 more examples here. So number 4, because it was our anniversary, we went out for dinner. Because it was our anniversary, comma, we went out for dinner. Is that a complete thought? Sounds like it. Does it have a subject? Yes. Does it have a verb? Yes. So that is actually a complete sentence. This is known as a complex sentence because you have a dependent clause with an independent clause, but it is a complete sentence. The woman walking her puppy on a leash. What do you guys think? Is there a subject? Sure, the woman. Is there a verb? Well, there is a verb form, walking, but that's not in present, past, or future tense. That's actually a participle. So there's something that's not complete here. It feels like we're waiting for more information. The woman walking her puppy on a leash just sounds like the subject of a bigger sentence. And so this is actually a fragment. We're waiting for more information. And then finally, number 6, I like school. English is my favorite subject. All right. Is there a complete thought? Yes, actually. And again, it seems like maybe there's more than one. So are there subjects? Yeah, there are 2 subjects. Are there verbs? There are 2 verbs. So it looks like 2 complete sentences that are put together with just a comma. And remember, the comma is not enough to put together 2 complete sentences. So this is known as a comma splice. All right. Well, that concludes our lesson and a little bit of review. You're welcome to watch this again if you need to catch some of these details again. But for further study, you can also check out our textbook. Each chapter has a grammar or writing tools review, including one about complete sentences. You can also look up on the internet. There's Khan Academy, the Purdue Online Writing Lab, or OWL, as well as other resources that you'll find on YouTube or at various websites. The Gwinnett Tech Library, the librarians have put together some resources as well for grammar review. You can always email me with questions if you have some things that you need further clarification on. Thanks for paying attention to this lesson. You have a quiz to do now in response to this. And let me know again if you have any questions, and I will see you again soon. Thanks.